Welcome to The Resilience, the podcast where we rediscover how to create grounded, solid, based families and connections in this chaotic, postmodern Canadian culture sphere. I'm your host, Melanie Bennett. I'm not going to make you reintroduce yourself. I'll just use I'll use the footage from the other one. Yeah, let's talk about all of the controversy. When did that start for you?
It started actually after I joined a rally in Mississauga a couple of weeks ago, and I shared on Twitter some of the because this rally actually it was originally calling for our pride as Muslims about modesty and about the rights of children, because we can see that our freedoms are getting compromised about our religious freedoms. So I posted some or I tweeted some photos from and videos about this rally, but actually it was just before starting, while we are preparing or announcing for this rally. The mayor of Mississauga, Bronnie Crombie, she wrote a tweet and she was against this rally. She showed her disappointment, which was like really surprising and shocking for us. So I started.
I think she condemned it, didn't she? Like quite strongly.
Yeah, she condemned this, and it was shocking for all of us. We know how much she's supportive, and we have been working with the Liberal Party for a long time, and we noticed like a sudden change in their position about Muslims and our freedom. So she considered that we don't have the right to go and speak up about. I don't think she knew what our demands clearly. I'm not sure. I'm not one of the organizers, but I see that this tweet was really the start for my comment about on her tweet, and then starting to share about the pride and my opinion. This was the start of the people are getting more concerned, especially that I was running a campaign. I was campaigning how I have a lot of followers, and I'm connected to many politicians all over Canada. Yeah.
How is that with the other politicians? How is that going down? Or if they said anything?
This is what surprises me. Like the majority. Oh, I'm sorry. So I have a cat. So the majority of our politicians are really silent. They don't speak up, except for very few of them. Justin Trudeau also, he made an announcement, or we see that he sided with the LGBT community. He wasn't very clearly supporting us. And however, most of the people that I connect with or actively having some conversations, they are not really politicians.
Yeah, that's it's interesting, because now I noticed the vitriol being sent your way. I mean, that's how you came to my attention. I was like, wow, they're really going after this lady. Who is this lady? Right? Why is she such a target for all this vitriol? And I was surprised at some of the things that I was seeing along the lines of, I mean, some of it is, I guess, trying to argue the point of LGBT, which is fair enough. But I mean, some of it has been down to the point of saying things like, all you want is Sharia. You're indoctrinating your children. How dare you come to Canada and tell or try to indoctrinate Canada or go back to Pakistan? I mean, I have seen a lot of this stuff, and I was quite surprised at the. I mean, it, the funniest thing I think for me was a lot of talk about hypocrisy whilst being extremely hypocritical. And that shocked me because I found that the tone of your tweets was very, very measured.
Mm.
You're a very intelligently spoken lady. You're very measured in what you're saying. It's very sensible. What I understand your message to be is we have always respected you and we're asking you to respect us in return. That's the gist of what I understand your message to be. And then to get these awful messages in return, I mean, were you expecting that?
Yeah, for sure. I was expecting. I'm expecting the worst. So I don't care about whatever. Like I received threats. I received like insults, and they are trying to silence me because actually, when people start to speak up and to call for the rights, this motivates others, right? So other people, so the sentiment that I have, it is not only me, but like many people are speaking, right? But I when I do that,
I
other,
I speak way more directly than you, and I do not receive. I received a little bit of pushback, but not like you. Like you
because
received
I'm a Muslim, because I am
direct.
hijabi, I'm a Muslim, I'm hijabi, I am maybe they think that I have some kind of followers, I don't know. They this is and I am like a very well known like liberal supporter, so like some politics it comes into it, but actually my as I indicated, and I'm always repeating that this is not really a political movement. It started from being just showing our care and calling for our freedoms, which is legitimate. And this is the core values of Canada. And what is happening is that they are starting to change our message. So, our very simple message is keep away from our children. Like this is what is the simplest, modest request, that we send our children to public schools, because we have Islamic private schools that they are not funded by the government. Many people, they send Muslims and some people of faith and all other people, they send their kids to public schools. They don't really like there some ideology to be imposed on the kids. So we just simply said, okay, please don't teach our children this ideology in the school.
But
So
they would argue to play devil's advocate that this is just the human rights laws. This is just part of Canada. This is just part of being tolerant, and you have to accept that if you're going to send children to schools, because you see a lot of that kind of messaging, and I can sort of understand why some people might feel that way, where they might believe that, well, we're just teaching them to be tolerant, and so you can't send your children to school and not want to accept tolerance,
mm,
right? Like
mm.
yeah, I'll let you discuss that.
Yeah, so this is, I was really very, I was thinking about this point and how some people perceive the message that those people, they say, okay, this is, we don't want to teach this to our children. So it means that you
That you don't want to be
are
tolerant.
you don't want, this is the danger of this ideology, right? Because they are sending a message, the wrong message. They are sending that inclusion and equity means LGBT rights, right? You So this is the core value that they are trying to show to people, that you have to believe, or you have to if you want to be respected in this country, you need to embrace this ideology and be part of it. And this is why they have a plus sign at the end. So they
Ally.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, they think that everybody is gonna join, but it is not that. Like we are here in Canada, myself, many immigrants, many people came to Canada and still coming because of the freedom, right? And the freedom is something essential. It is part of,
Freedom.
huh?
The
Yeah.
freedom.
So this is how the Canada is introduced in the world or branded, right?
Yeah.
But when we come here and then we discover the reality, and we discover no, your freedom is limited, and so it is actually it is a huge problem for many people of faith. They will never accept that, and we will like I think the politicians and the government, they cannot imagine the size of the unrest in the hearts of people. They will never tolerate this. I know that many leaders in our community have failed us, and probably this is the reason why we are in this situation, right? But it will not continue. Like there are young people, they don't want to be
Some.
treated this way.
Depends.
Yeah,
Yeah, it depends. Speaking of children, you're a mother, and
yeah,
obviously you work with the schools as well as being a politician. I understand that you're, I think, is a parent. You're on the parent, uh,
yeah.
not the board of trustees, but
Representative. I'm
yeah.
representative in
So
TDSB.
how did you come into this issue particularly, um, as a mother? Why this issue?
Um, well, this issue regarding the gender ideology. So the problem about this is that the for kids to be in the school and then to be taught that we are not male and female. There are 24 different choices that you can identify yourself with, and then we started noticing spreading of pornography materials that is introduced as sex education, which is not aligned with our values as uh, Muslims or people of faith, and at the same time it is not age appropriate. So those concepts are really very threatening, very threatening for us.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. I'm agnostic at best. I've been atheist most of my life, and it doesn't align with my personal values. But you would get pushback saying that, or anybody who takes a religious stand seems to get some kind of pushback that says, "Well, the schools are not here to teach your children your values. They're here to teach Canadian values," and somehow this has become such a big issue, right? So you've noticed that stuff has been coming home with your kids. So they've been bringing home materials that you started questioning, and that's how you got involved. Is that, did I
No,
understand that correctly?
no. So for me, it is not really about my own child, because I have been living here for 17 years in Canada. I have done a lot of research. I have a specific amount of knowledge. I feel the responsibility, right? For my son, I can manage like his, because many people are sending me everywhere in the world, like Egypt, and they are sending me the United States. It's not like if I go there, okay, that's fine. But what about the people who are not aware of what is going on? It's a responsibility. I cannot just stay silent and protect my own son, and that's it. this is not how it should work. Anybody who have specific level of knowledge, they have information, they have responsibility to and who said that those are Canadian values? Who is identifying the Canadian values? Right, like we have been, it is something very new, this ideology. Now I have been researching the past few days, and I'm starting to see terms I have never heard about, and it is very recently introduced into the schools and into our culture, like uh, this is not Canadian values. What about Christian values? What about Jewish values? What about, so this is so what I'm calling for, uh, please teach our children ethics. Teach them about diversity. Teach them to be tolerant. Teach them to have critical thinking, right? How can you claim that you are uh, uh, free people, and you are trying to the leaders in freedom, and then you come to a child who is a minor at school and start teaching him specific ideology that has not proven to be correct. You
Yeah,
see, it is
basically, this
correct
is
for
how you
you.
think.
for
Yeah,
for many people it is not correct. So
yeah.
children needs to learn critical thinking, needs to decide for themselves. This is what freedom is. This is what Canadian values are.
Yeah, you mentioned instead of what's going on now, that they should be learning ethics, diversity. And obviously, we just covered critical thinking, but I guess currently our schools would argue, well, they are teaching ethics. It's about being ethically open to all diverse ways of living. And we are being diverse. We are including diverse ways of being, diverse gender, creativity, diverse lifestyles, diverse this, that, whatever. So, what is different from what you're suggesting than what the schools are currently doing?
So the problem is that they start stressing on gender. They don't acknowledge the biological gender of the child, that he is a boy or he is a girl. They want to let him choose his pronoun. Like they want to just call him they or whatever. And then the child decides if he wants to be a boy or a girl or whatever, or 25 different options. And then they are trying also to remove the parent consent, or so parents will not be aware of what is happening. And some schools in the United States, they have clinics to provide hormones and something that is helping to change the gender of the child, which is very dangerous. Like, how can this happen without parents be involved? And why in schools? Why in schools? Why don't you, if this is really what you want to do for your poor little child, do it on your own expenses. Why would the school, or why the Canadian government, the federal government, would fund this ideology? This is
Yeah,
it
the
doesn't make any
argument
sense.
right now seems to be that secrecy must be provided, or not secrecy. What they would use, like the term they would use is privacy must be provided, or yeah, just privacy. So the child needs to feel safe. It's a safe space. They need to feel like they can openly be themselves at school, because bigoted parents do exist. You know, I want to say homophobic, but really it's queerphobic parents exist. And so the schools want to provide this safe space for children to come out. But previously, if there were concerns, safety concerns for children, we would call children's services. No, if there's actually some kind of safeguarding issue that's in place. And so why, that's my question too, is why this one specific issue? Why are we assuming that parents immediately, like that's saying something that other adults know that other parents would be like, this isn't right. And so providing this like secretive space so we can keep that away from parents, right? So yeah,
there is
nobody's calling children's services.
this is a huge danger. This is a huge danger that the school or the government start considering themselves, starting taking the role of parents instead of their biological and real parents, and starting to have an like accuse uh, people who are not aligned with this policy, that they are outdated, or so like this is the it is
It's
a
phobic.
violation. No, this is a violation to the Human Rights Code. This is a violation to the Charter of Rights and Freedom. Like, how can we claim that we have religious freedom, and then anyone who has some kind of school of thought that is not aligned with their school of thought would be considered like they will be attacked and accused of this is racism. This is pure racism, right? I cannot give it any kind of definition other than that.
Yeah, but I that's interesting. Racism. So how do you mean by that? So I'm a white European, literally from the UK, and I'm completely against gender ideology. And
Yeah.
would it be racist against me for saying no? I'm against this. Like I'm not sure.
Okay, so now what I noticed that there is I think we need to introduce a new definition to racism that is against. So anybody, and now we start noticing they are putting us in one like basket. Everybody who is
White
opposing.
supremacy basket.
Yeah, exactly. So now they put me from the right to the left and from left to the right, and then putting me. You now became like, no, it is not me. It is you who became racist against anyone who is speaking their own ideas, their own thoughts, their own ideology. This is racism, to identify anyone who is not aligned with this policy to be, oh, you are racist. And this is, by the way, it's not, it is anti-religion. This is anti-religion, very clearly. All religions do not approve all those kinds of relationships. Those are against our values, our religion, right?
But
And
how
then
do we all of the it's like I know that there was an imam who came out, and I don't know his name, but I know in passing there's an imam who came out in support of LGBT, and certainly there are many Christian churches who are very much in favor of queer pride. So the new queer movement I'm talking about, like I'm not talking about homosexuality, I'm talking about the new trans queer movement, based in queer theory, all that stuff. You see, so a lot of religious groups do actually seem to be very supportive of it, including some Muslim groups.
Okay, so those are people who are failing their own values, their own religion, and those are very dangerous, because they are portraying the religion in the wrong way, right? If you want to go and embrace this movement, go do whatever you want, but don't claim this is part of Islamic tradition, and don't go and say, I am a Muslim and I am a gay. Okay, you are a Muslim, you are a gay. This is not considered part of the Islam, so you don't represent Muslims. It's okay. There, do whatever you want, right? But if you really want to, and it is like, put all religions aside, put it aside. Let's take it from their perspective, their laws, their constitution. I'm sorry to say that it is our constitution, because they are starting to like push us away even from our own citizenship, right? So for anybody that is exposed to this kind of hate speech and trying to pull them away from their Canadian citizenship, so we have to understand this is our Canadian value. Islam is part of Canada and is part of our Canadian values. And when I'm speaking my mind, when I speaking in confidence and in pride of my religion, my values, uh, no one should attack me for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so you raised some interesting points actually. So I'm glad that we're talking because you and I, in many ways, are very similar. We're both mothers. We're probably fairly similar age, actually, and we're both against gender ideology. But we also couldn't be more different in other ways. Like I've always been a progressive left. I've defected, obviously, but I've always been very much on the left. I've been very pro LGBT my entire life up until this gender stuff, and I'm learning to appreciate people who are very, very different to me. Even though I thought I was doing that before, I realized I kind of wasn't, and I'm starting to do that now. But that's another point for another day. What I wanted to talk about is you were mentioning that if you're gay, if you're homosexual, you really can't be part of Islam, and that's one area that would make a lot of people uneasy, and certainly makes me uneasy, hearing things like that, because then it brings it back to, you know, people being concerned that if in certain families, you know, families are not comfortable with their children or their brother, their cousin, whatever, being gay, would they then be excommunicated from their communities? And I think that's where some of the empathy comes from, is concern. It may be misplaced concern, because obviously families deal with whatever it is that they go through amongst themselves in many ways. But it does raise worries because, yeah, I think certainly in the West, I mean, homosexuality is certainly seen as very, very natural and normal, and not anything like to be shameful or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to frame this question, but that I think that does raise some worries for a lot of people. The idea that, you know, supporting Muslims against gender ideology would also mean, you know, supporting homophobia.
No, it is not at all. Like, so speaking as a Muslim, who have like a Canadian Muslim, so Islam doesn't matter. Like in the East, in the West, the core values of Islam is freedom, which is they are trying to propagate like some kind of Islamophobic ideas that, oh, we are oppressed, we are people who are wearing hijab because my dad or whatever told me to do that. So this is a proof. This is a proof. Like being a Muslim in Canada, I'm a single mother. I'm not married. My dad has passed away, but I'm wearing my hijab. And this is my freedom. This is my freedom. My freedom is choosing whatever I want for myself. One of the basic concepts of Islam, there is no compulsion in religion. So if my son comes and tell me I'm not a Muslim, I am a gay, I am whatever, what would I do for him? I will still love him. I will still like keep him closer to me, because the more we get closer to our children and the more we love them and accept them, the more we can solve the most complicated problems in the world. This is how Muslims think, right? So trying to portray us that we are threat to whatever, we are not criminals, we are not homophobic, we are not all those terms. We are the most tolerant people on earth if they truly understand what Islam is about. So we like whatever my views are, I have never ever made any criticism and any barrier between me and any member in the Canadian community. I don't care if they are gay, if they are atheists, if they are Jew, Christians. For me, this is a relationship between them and their Lord. This is their own freedom. I respect freedom of others. I respect freedom for of my children, and I'm expecting others to respect me the same way. So there's something which is really very funny, and I am like someone is writing to me that like some negative slurs on on Twitter. Okay, so he is giving me a title which is very humiliating, right? Usually I block those people, but the point is, if you are part of LGBT queer movement or whatever movement you are, so you are asking us to, whenever you decide that you are a woman, you are a man, right? And then you decide to be a woman, and you are asking me to identify you as a woman, and you think that this is your right, okay? Why don't you respect my right? And you don't have any qualifications to be a woman, by the way. You are really very masculine man, and you are a real man. And then you say, okay, I'm a trans woman, gender, and I am a woman, and they start wearing like a woman. It's okay. That's fine. You don't have the qualifications, but you think that you have the privilege to ask everyone to respect your choice and to call you she or her. But me, just because I have my own religion ideology, I'm an engineer, I have experience, I have PhD, and you don't respect the privilege that I earned all
Yeah.
over my life. So this is the kind of community that we are facing in Canada.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for talking to me. I genuinely really appreciate that. Uh, Part of the reason I wanted to speak to you, because we're so different. We come from such different backgrounds. And I think one of the things that's lacking nowadays is that people are so willing to jump to conclusions, to make a lot of assumptions about people, to assume the worst in what they're saying. So I see with you is that what you're saying is sensible, but people are making judgments and interpreting things you have not said very negatively. And that seems to be going on a lot. And then when you see people in person, they might be polite, but nobody's having those difficult conversations. It's not often that people seem to want to ask the difficult questions. Like, it was uncomfortable for me to ask about homophobia or obviously the perception of homophobia in Islam, but I thought it would be important to ask it so we could I could get to understand your point of view better, right? But there seems to be a lack of that kind of discourse between people nowadays. Do you have difficulty with that, especially in the world?
Okay,
More
I'll tell
obviously
you.
on Twitter, yes. But what about the real?
I'll tell you what we are having a problem with. We are having a problem of leadership. We are having a problem about our media. Okay, this is what really sets up the culture in the country. Those are those leaders who either enforce the divisiveness in any community or bring communities together, the media and the leadership. So when we have a leader is taking sides with certain community versus the other, or inciting hate against Muslims, and saying that, oh, you shouldn't do that. I tried to prevent this, whatever, to that you call for your rights. And then I really sometimes I find an excuse for those people to try to feel this hatred and this huge suspicious about what those people are calling for. And misinformation, this is something, misinformation and defamation. So now I start noticing like people taking my photo, taking my whatever, like a link,
Yeah, I've
and
seen a
spreading.
badge. What is it?
Yeah,
The anti-Bahira badges? Have you seen those?
yeah, yes, yes. They
What?
have a
Why?
campaign, anti-Bahira campaign. No, but it's not this only that. They start saying things about me I have never said, or I don't stand for. So they are saying that,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
pretty
now,
sure that's Antifa. Like that seems to be organized. Like that very targeted attack on you does seem to be
yeah,
part of a campaign.
yeah. So they are organizing a campaign against me, trying to defame me, trying to threaten me, and um, I don't care about those efforts because I'm a very well known member of the Canadian community and the Muslim community, and their efforts to do that. They are what they are doing, like they are inciting hate against me and the LGBT community. I have
Well, they're trying
been,
to smear your good
no, no,
name, and
I
so
just want
anybody
to,
who doesn't know you would then automatically think you're this hateful bigot. That's the purpose, no?
yeah, yeah. So I have been just to be honest. I have been working with one of the leaders of the LGBT community in Canada. I have been volunteering with him for 7 years. I helped him to win in several elections, and I have never, and me and a lot of Muslims, and we didn't have anything against him, and I still don't have, but I'm expecting from him to speak up now. This is the moment where they need to pay back. They need to pay back. So you need to announce that those people supported me. Those people are not anti-LGBT as you think, because they have been standing up with us, and we are united. We have been
But do you
working
think they're
together
going to
in
do
Canada. Huh? This is
because nobody stood
this
up yet?
this is what they are supposed to do. These are what leaders and politicians are supposed to do to stop this hate campaigns that are spreading in Canada. But if they don't do that, it is not going to harm me as a person as much as it is very harmful to the whole country. Where we saw this in many like third world countries, and I'm very sad that it is happening in a country like Canada.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so uh, I remember reading actions that you put out. So on Twitter, so one of the things you put out on Twitter is long threads of things that people can do or your ideas or whatever. And one of those things is ideas for how parents can push back, or did they know that they have these rights, or did they know that this is part of policy XYZ. So what can you share with people in terms of how they can become involved and how they can push back, what their rights are?
Okay, so first of all, um, so I see that there are many different solutions for this situation that we are having as Muslims in Canada. Like as Muslims, we have Islamic schools, but we don't really have funded Islamic schools. That's why we have many Muslims are they need to go to public schools. So funding Islamic schools in Canada, or having a Muslim school board, it will help the solution. It will be part of a solution for us as Muslims, but still it will not be solving the issue for all other people, and we don't want that. We are not looking only for our community or ourselves. I don't think this way. So what I see that as a solution, it is the government needs to interfere. The government needs to have a stand, and to be fair with everyone in this country, uh, and uh, everyone, they need to have a sense of responsibility. And this is what I wrote on LinkedIn today. I wrote that you don't have to be a Christian to support child. You don't have to be a Jew. You don't have to be a Muslim. You don't have to be a Hindu. You don't have to be an atheist. You just need to be a human, and you need to have courage. Have the courage to fight for your rights, to stand up with those little kids. It's about the little kids now, right? We don't want them to be exposed to any kind of hormonal interference to change their gender. They are not able to decide for themselves. So any human being who believes in freedom, who believes in protection of children's rights, they need to be joining us and joining our cause. Parents, if you are a parent, go to your school, ask where is the parent council, join your parent council. If there is no parent council, you need to create one. Some schools, they don't have parent council. And
Is that
this,
really common?
huh?
Is that really common to have a parents' council? Because until speaking to you, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, it is. No. So this is part of the misinformation that we are having. Like, it is not something very common to see someone who doesn't know what are parent council or what are their roles, although they have a major role in making school boards accountable, making principal accountable. They can change the principle. They can participate. They send representative and participate in the decisions, to vote in the reach out to your trustee. So we have parent council, and then we have parent engagement advisory committee representatives. There are 2 representatives for each ward. And then we have a school trustee, who is an elected official, who is supposed to be representing people, because this is an elected official. So when you are giving your voice to someone, make sure that to make them accountable, right? Find who is the school trustee in your ward, talk to them, and see what is their stand. And if they are not standing up with your rights, you have to put this person down in the next election. Never vote for someone who do not respect you, right? Find out who is the school trustee, find out who is the parent representative, find out when is the election time, and when was the last election made, and if the rules, they are following the rules about announcing for the election. And this is what I did. I did that. I reached out. I found out that they didn't announce for the election, and I asked them why you did that. When is the election? Why the parent representative in this ward have been there for 8 consecutive years, and she is standing with the board, not with parents. And this is the parents, actually, they complained to me. Right?
Yeah, well, that's kind of a big issue here in Ontario, that there's a lot of corruption within the boards. And so this is why I like the idea of the parent council, because I personally haven't heard that much about parent councils, and especially, do you know where the rules might be, like where someone can go read the rules about this, like what they can bring to
The
the trust
ministry,
the board that says, look,
ministry.
you need to have this, it's in the rules.
Okay, so go to the website of the Ministry of Education for your province, and you will find the legislations and the laws there. Read them and compare them with the TDSB or the school board regulations, and make sure that they are aligned with the law. And you will find in the school board the website all the information that you need to know, how to contribute, how to be a member of the committee. There are many committees that are there. They are open for parents to join. And even if you are not a member of the committee, you can be joining as to follow up what they are doing. If you don't really have enough time to be an active member, at least check out what they are saying. Check out who are the members of the committee. Are they eligible to be? And this is, by the way, it is the role of the government. It is the role of the government to ensure that there is no corruption inside school boards. It is the rule of the government to ensure that there is a balance in power. We have concentration of power inside the school board. How are you expecting from parents who are immigrants, newcomers? So you are a very knowledgeable, educated person, and you don't even know that there is a school board. How are you expecting from someone who do not speak the language and they don't understand their rights, and they came to Canada to be putting school boards accountable? So no one is putting them accountable at the end. So there is something wrong happening here.
Yeah. So in the UK, when my son was growing up, I was a very active member of the school. I was doing my university when he was still young, and I built a school garden at his school, and I used to teach them sometimes in the garden, and I did a lot of it. So I was very, very, very involved in his schooling up until high school. And then we moved to Canada, and I volunteered my services again. I was like, look, I'm an ecologist. I've done all this work with schools. I'm happy to help. And I expected the school here in YRDSB to be very happy to have my help. But no, they were really uninterested. And I thought that was very strange, because in England, we'd had such a positive response. They really wanted parents to get involved. And that was not my experience here in Canada. I had just moved. I mean, I'm originally Canadian, but I technically just moved country. And, I had a lot of things going on. So I didn't I didn't think about it too much. And I was very busy. I'm also a single mom, and I had this, tough job. My child's becoming a teenager. All these things are going on. So it suited me just fine. But thinking about it now, that was very, very strange. And yeah, they don't make it obvious. They don't make it easy. And it certainly was not what it was. They were polite, but I would not say that they were welcoming. It did not feel to me that they welcomed parents coming on board. And that was 7 years ago. So I imagine it might be a bit different today. My son's now grown. He's no longer in the public schooling system, so it doesn't really matter. But I think that that's very, very good information, especially now as parents are becoming more aware of these things that are going on. I think they do need to know that such things like the parent council exist, and that parents can have some kind of influence, because you see these parents protesting who are not allowed to go on the school boards, who are being silenced, being pushed out by these boards. And you're very correct. There's a lot of power being concentrated in the boards, and they're not listening to parents. So yeah, that is an amazing thing to share. Do you have, just as we sort of wrap up here, do you have maybe there's something that I've forgotten here, but any other actions that they can be parents or anybody that might be a good contributor to fighting back against gender ideology in schools?
Okay, so my demand is that everyone everyone who really believes in freedom, who really believes in diversity, and who really in his or in her position, they have a role. they have a role. Don't tell me that Justin Trudeau has nothing to do with our education. And when you go to the Prime Minister of Canada, and he says, "I'm sorry, it is provincial." And then when you go to the province and you go to the mayor, and they say, "No, we are not responsible." Okay, you are responsible of women who are getting beaten at home, but you are not responsible of kids who are changing their gender without parent consent at school. Isn't this a safety issue? Isn't this a crisis? Isn't this a pandemic? Why is are the the cities around Ontario, they all announced that family violence is pandemic. Olivia
Yeah.
Chow, as soon as she got in power, she announced that family violence is pandemic, and ignoring all those protests, all those people who voted for her, and calling for protection of their child. She has a role as a mayor to enforce safety procedures. We need police officers or civil people to be making those people accountable, not to act against the will of the parents. This is a safety issue. Parents, they have a role. If you are in your position, and don't be afraid to lose your position when you speak up about justice, because you will get questions from your Lord about your position in this world, about what did you do when you found people, or if you are a Muslim and you have the capacity to send your child to a private school, you need to fight for others who are not capable of sending their children. You don't say that, okay, it is none of my business. I'm going to vote for the people who are enforcing this on our children. Be mindful about who you are voting for, because policy, it forms all the issues that are happening here. Your voice matters, and think, investigate, question the person who is running for any position and any office in Canada. Keep them accountable and keep following up with them, because we have some Muslim leaders, all the Muslim communities that went, they voted for them, and then they are raising the LGBT flag and ignoring those people who voted for them. So you need to follow up with your representative, ask them to stand up for your rights.
I really, really, really admire your courage. I admire your courage on Twitter. I admire your courage in the words that you speak to me. I'm glad you follow me, and I'm glad I follow you. And I look forward to seeing how that goes as we move forward in this, especially as September rolls around and some fun happens.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
Okay, Dr. Abdulsalam, it was lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a nice day.